Welcome to the webinar Attracting Conscious Love After Toxic Relationship. I am Lucia Gabriela, your host for today's webinar. I'm a relationship and intimacy coach, somatic therapist, and tantra facilitator. I'm also founder of Nuna Holistic Retreat Center here in Sarasota, Florida. I'm creator of these fabulous events, Night of Tantra, Tantra Kink, Embodiment of Sensual Bliss, Cuddle Bliss, the art of relationship mastery, and the art of ecstatic intimacy. The intention for this webinar is to shed the light on the awareness that if we have been in a toxic relationship and if we don't purge the toxic baggage we carry from the past, we will keep attracting toxic relationship and repeat the vicious cycle of abuse and trauma for ourselves and others. The reason we will be because of filters to attract love and a lover will be fear, pain, shame, confusion, and internal chaos. So what is a toxic relationship? A toxic relationship is any relationship that feels unhealthy, emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, and even financially. This feeling is consistent, intense, and destructive in many areas of our life. The key word here to recognize that we are in a toxic relationship is consistency and intensity. Are you in a relationship or you have been in a relationship where the toxicity, the feeling of not feeling good was really consistent and intense? So how do we know we are in a toxic relationship? First of all, it could be somatic. It feels heavy in your body. You have shortness of breath, chronic pain somewhere in your body. You may experience illness and even chronic illness. Also mentally, we feel confused, unclear, lost, manipulated, and gaslighted. Really important to pay attention to gaslight because gaslight is pretty much about when someone makes you think you're crazy, like create all the stories and create all these plot to make you believe that you are crazy. One of the greatest movies, the Gaslight movie, is really good one to watch and really have an understanding of how the gaslighting looks like. We also know we are in a toxic relationship when emotionally we feel fear, shame, guilt, we feel powerless, depressed, and also emotional responsible for the other person when they don't take responsibility for their emotions, or they make us want to be emotional responsible for them. Financially, we are in debt beyond our means by taking on someone else's financial obligations. It's spiritually, we feel isolated from Source, God, because, someone else is having influence on us or controlling us, manipulating us. What does it look like to be in a toxic relationship? Well, physical abuse is very visible. But the one that we don't see much, like it's really hard to prove even in court, is the invisible part of abuse, which will be emotional, spiritual, and psychological abuse. One of the common emotional, psychological abuse that we can experience, besides gaslighting, is the aspect of passive-aggressive. It's very common. We see it a lot in toxic relationship and with parents, with children, with society itself. Sarcasm is a way of being a passive-aggressive. It's something that people use irony and sarcasm to share what they really want to share, but they do it in a way that to hide something or to manipulate, or because they just can't say it aloud, and it can hurt a lot of people's feelings. Passive-aggressive also can be seen as avoiding communication, not wanting to communicate properly. Lack of communication is one of the biggest things I see in my practice as a passive-aggressive behavior. sometimes fear and shame comes into the picture, but there are people that they do it intentionally. And when you notice that people are doing intentionally, that they're not communicating right, they just using sensitivity as a way to get away with their stuff, this is a passive aggressive behavior. So really that's toxic stuff. Attracting conscious love requires to go through 3 crucial alchemical stages: purging, awareness, and boundaries. Let's start with purging. Let's start with the mind. Mindset rewiring. It is important for us to destroy and uncreate toxic belief and mindset around relationship. Those beliefs that came from parents, society, and past relationship. Really important to rewire our mind and a mindset around relationship. We sometimes carry so much stuff and so many subscriptions that we have around relationship. They're really toxic. So what tool can I share with you today? These one of the tools that I share with all my clients pretty much. Even in my online program is one of those really, really important to do, which is we write an inventory of all past relationships, including family, friends, and work, everyone that we have a relationship with. We write down the toxic mindset or traumatic experiences that we have experienced with each person, and we find a golden gift. This is a key ingredient right here, is that it is easier to destroy and uncreate toxic mindset when we embrace the golden lessons we gained from them. There is gold in every situation in our lives. We have to be willing to find it. So this is what it looked like to actually do this relationship inventory. We're gonna look for the lessons and the gift. So you write down the name of the person. What actually have you experienced? You experienced abuse, trauma. What's the story here? And also, or it could be a toxic belief, a mindset. Like, what's the story that your family told you about relationship, intimacy, sexuality? What are the stories? Like, what are the toxic stories that feels heavy, that doesn't feel right, that doesn't feel like aligned with you, who you are? So we write down all of that, and then we really look for the lessons. It's really important to look and search for the lessons of everything. There's gold everywhere, and every single experience of our life, there's a lesson for us to learn. So what are we really looking at? What is the lesson behind? How are we growing? If we don't have lessons in our life, we're not growing. We're static. So it's beautiful to see and go back into, okay, I'm looking at this past and this story, this belief that they don't belong to me to begin with. I'm inheriting from my parent. Is that good for me? Is actually serving me? Do I feel happy? Do I feel joyful? So we have to start questioning it. And what's the lesson of that? Like, what is the lesson I learned? Did I learn more about myself? Did I learn more about boundaries? Did I learn more about my desire, speaking out my truth? What's the gift, right? The lesson, give us the gift. So what we do after all of this, usually I recommend you to take time and do for a good hour. You can add everyone in there, your family members, your immediate family, your uncles that has had some kind of impact in your life, your grandmother, your intimate partner, your past partner. Doesn't matter how many people have you been with in intimacy. Just write every single one of them and look for the lesson and the gift. So what do you do then? When you have done all that inventory, you're going to realize that you experienced major breakthroughs. And I guarantee you're going to have them. Every single one of my clients has them. And I'm sure you will. So when you write down all of this in this inventory, you're actually going to burn it. You're going to destroy and uncreate. Burning it is a symbolism that you're destroying and uncreating all these abuse, trauma, toxic belief, mindset, all the energetic attachments around that. You give yourself permission to be the creator of your life and burn all that stuff. So this process is not about forgiving, forgetting, or regretting. It actually give yourself permission to accept people for who they are and where they are in their life. It's not about forgiving. the energy of forgiveness, it still has some kind of attachment, and it has a link into the person, and still have this thing about you own something, they own you something. Still have like a cloudy energy around it. So now it's really important to say, I personally don't forgive. I accept people for who they are. I don't forget. Why? Because I give myself permission to remember what I have learned from myself and the boundaries that I maybe didn't have in the past, that were needed, or my desires. So forgetting, it's like naturally something that they're not that impactful in your life, you're going to forget. But something that's really important in your life, you're not going to forget. And it's not good for you to be like, oh, I'm not going to forget. I have to forget it, and guilt yourself because you're not forgetting. Guilt yourself because you're not forgiven. There's nothing to forgive. It's about accepting people for who they are, where they are, and letting go, and really letting go, and just know that you learn a lesson and you have golden gift from this, and give yourself permission to embrace the evolution of your majestic being. So there's no regret. You are where you are now. Everything that had happened in your life has been for a reason. We know that it had been for you, not against you. And we learn. You are a rock star. You are a supernova star. You are magnificent. So give yourself permission to know that all these contrasts that we experienced in the past have actually helped us to be who we are today, and leading us to who we are in a cosmic being, and in the future too. So we are where we are, and we are fantastic. So part of the purging process, now that we have addressed the mind, we're going to be addressing the body. It's really important to have emotional somatic release. Our bodies store and remember information. Information are thoughts, belief, and emotions. This information is transferred from generation to generation. And really to look into epigenetic, the science of epigenetic, really magnificent. Look for the Holocaust study in 2015 by Rachel Yehuda. There's so many other research that have happened in the past 4 years. But epigenetic has been showing us that we really store information in our body, and how powerful it is for us to release it through emotional somatic therapies. So what therapies can help your body release trauma? We have emotional somatic therapies, shamanic and tantric therapies, craniosacral. We have body work, real good body work, reflexology, acupressure, rolfing, etc. So I do have a video that I invite you to watch, which is the emotional and sexual healing with integrated body dearmoring. You can find it on my YouTube channel. It is a good hour video, educational video that actually talks to you about emotional somatic therapy. My practice is integrated body dearmoring, which is fantastic. Really, really powerful. And another part of the purging stage is clearing your energy. Doing breath work, meditation, sound healing, doing practices that help you to raise the vibration of your energy, and that help you to shift the consciousness of the past. Now, the other process that is important for us to address when it comes to attracting an amazing lover into our life is just to be in this awareness stage. We have body awareness. It is important to be consciously aware of our body and what is happening within. Our body is our temple of creation and give us signs when something is not in alignment with our creation. So you maybe already experienced some body awareness. What practices can you do to become more aware of your body? Ecstatic dance, fire rhythms, Kundalini yoga, tantra, etc. Really important to get back into your body and tune in into your body, tune in into your breath, tune in into your movement, tune in into your energy, and become aware of it. The reason why awareness stage is really important is because through this webinar and through any process that you do to attract love into your life, you have to become aware of your body, because your body is going to give you those signs, and it's going to make you aware of where you are. Trigger awareness. Triggers are messengers. Let's look at what the message is about. It's really important for us to become aware where is this trigger coming from? And like, what is this about? It is my trigger, somebody else's trigger. What's the story about this trigger? What's the core of the trigger? We have a webinar coming up called From Trigger to Bliss. I really encourage you to look for it and sign up for the webinar. Powerful stuff that we'll be sharing in that webinar. The trigger awareness process. So we invite you to really look into a timeline in your life, could be recently, where you got triggered. It's important to observe yourself feeling the trigger. Observe yourself feeling the energy of the trigger. So if you have experienced a trigger recently, observe the trigger. But mostly important, observe the energy of the trigger. How that it feels. That it has any texture, any color, any consistency. And ask yourself the question, does a lack of boundary cause this trigger? Or does an unfulfilled need or desire cause this trigger? One of the things that I realize working with couples and individuals is that triggers shares the message, of course. And when we go dive deeper into it, I find that there are major two causes why we experience a trigger. There's a boundary that has not been addressed or put in place, or a desire that had not been fulfilled at all. So take a minute and go through this process with a recent trigger. And just look within yourself, where is this trigger coming from? Now, let's talk about becoming aware of a light archetypes and a shadow archetypes. This is another great topic and conversation. If you have been watching my work or reading my work or following my work in any shape or form, you're going to become aware, or you know already, that I do work with archetypes a lot. That's pretty much one of the core foundations of my work. And becoming aware of the parts of you. Archetypes are part of you, part of self, part of your psyche. We actually have another webinar coming up about archetypes, especially about the lover archetype, for how to be a delicious lover. We're going to be talking more about archetypes in that webinar. So stay tuned, pay attention to that, because that's going to help you to become a delicious lover, how to be a delicious lover. So archetypes are really, really important. And the final part of the awareness stage is really to tune in and become aware of an archetype. Who is running the bus? What part of ourselves is running the bus? So we have the light archetypes. We can say that the royal, the queen, the king. We have the alchemist, the priestess, the parent, the mother, father. Those are light ones. Those are the ones that we consider light because they feel good, right? The shadow archetype, the shadow archetype, when it comes to toxic relationship and attracting great love into our life, after experiencing toxic relationship, we have to become really aware. This is the key right here. We have to be really, really aware of our own shadow archetypes when it comes to the abusive archetype, the victim, the sated, and the masochist. The reason why I'm saying that is because by experience, not just by myself, my own experience, my own personal experience, but working with individuals and couples, I find that many times we keep attracting toxic relationship into our life because there's a part of the abuser archetype, or the sated or the masochist archetype, the part of ourselves that they like pain or they like to give pain, they still have a need of more of that. And it's really important to become aware, where is this coming from? So these are like very deep work, like shadow work, what we call it, working with the shadows archetype. Really deep work. So I definitely encourage you, if you want to explore more of that, to reach out to me and let's explore it together. And I would love to help you to explore different aspects of yourself and your archetypes, so you can actually create the life that you desire from a place of consciousness and awareness. So when you become aware of your archetype, it is really important to ask yourself the question, what part of me is triggered? And we're going to talk more about that when we do our From Trigger to Bliss webinar, because we're going to find out that Sometimes a part of you is the one's trigger, and that part of you is because it has a lack of boundary or it has a need that has not been met. And it's really, really important for us to become aware of what part of that is, and that way we can address it properly. And finally, the final part of it is about boundaries. The final stage is boundaries. When we're able to purge the mindset, somatic work, energy work, and then we're able to become aware, aware of triggers, aware of emotions, of our body, of our archetype. We become aware and start mastering more who we are and our boundaries. To create clear and harmonious boundaries is essential to know: what have you learned from toxic situations and relationships? We don't know what we want until we know what we don't want. So the things that you didn't like before, you didn't want it, actually they are the great tools that you have to be able to say, I want this in my life. Because I experienced the contrast, you know what? I didn't like it. It was too horrible the great lessons I learned, but that's not me. I don't like it. I'm not going to have it. I'm not going to tolerate it. Remember one thing, you tolerate, you get what you tolerate. So if you're going to tolerate abuse, you're going to get abused. So if you have come from a toxic relationship and you're done with it, you're like, man, that's it. I learned everything I needed to learn. I am not tolerating this behavior. You're going to know how to set your boundaries very clear. It's important for us to know our values and standards. What is essential for you? Values like what is important for you. What you tolerate and what you don't tolerate. What do you value? What are your standards? What do you stand for? Right? So you stand for great communication? Great, that's one of my boundaries. In my relationship, communication is my top one core foundations, and at the same time one of my top boundaries is like, if people don't communicate with me properly, there are consequences to it. We have to address it. We have to work it. I don't tolerate someone who does not communicate or avoid communication. It's passive aggressive when it comes to communication. That's my standard, and I'm very firm on that. And what happens is that when we own our boundaries and we're very firm and congruent with who we are in our boundaries, people respect and learn to behave and to own their own BS, right? Like they start owning who they are, and they start. It's such a, for me, boundaries is such an empowering, tools to have. So we also have to explore what's the birth of this boundary? Who gave birth to this boundary? Does it come from pain or gratitude? Who birthed this baby? Pain or gratitude? Where's this boundary coming from? The dynamic of the boundary coming from pain is totally energetically different, like that come from gratitude. It's hard to explain it. It is easier for you to tapping into an experience in your life that it was a very painful experience, and you create a boundary around that and feel how that feels in your body and energetic of it, and then compare that to a boundary that was created from a place of gratitude, from a place of joy or harmony. It wasn't too traumatic, but it was a boundary that it was created for loving yourself. So if these boundary come from a place of pain, ask yourself, it is a wall or boundary. Because walls are there to stop. They don't let anything come in. They don't let anything go out. And sometimes we block ourselves from experiencing amazing love into our life and having amazing intimate relationship because we create walls around us. And boundaries are not walls. Boundaries are energetic fields that filters where we accept and where we don't accept. So and destroy what is where we don't tolerate and when we don't accept and what we don't want. So it's like I feel like my explanation of boundary is like I always see myself in this beautiful ocean where the water is like my boundary field, and the water filters what comes in and what comes out. But it's like a very sacred water, put it this way. It's an alchemical water. It's a water that will destroy immediately whatever is not in my field. So that to me is my boundary, and by me recognizing it, my recognition and awareness of what it is that I don't want is what actually destroy and it kind of like BS that want to come my way, and it helped me to be very strong. So I had to be very strong and very in integrity with my boundary. Everybody can have boundaries, but you have to own them. So also it's important to know like whose boundary is it. You know, we talk about archetype or shadow work, shadow archetypes, and like who's it? Is this my light archetype boundaries or my dark archetype, my shadow archetype boundaries? It's important in boundaries to own our no's. You know, the power of no. I like to say that. The power of no. The power of no is really powerful. No is a complete sentence. There's no reason for negotiation, manipulation, or anything like that. A no is a no. And if somebody that doesn't respect you no and you keep pushing, is not somebody that I really want to interact with. I know that so many people in the industry of marketing and business and sales, you know, hearing a no is like, no, you can't hear a no. Like, there's like conflict on that. When it comes to your well-being and when it comes to your well-being, pretty much, a no is a no. It's a complete answer. So it's really important to be aware of that. I personally, in my practice, I know that's it. It's complete. In my work, or especially when clients want to roll in my work, I'm not kind of like a pushy person, and I don't push anything to anyone. It's like people feel invited to join in, whatever they desire to co-create with me. I'm great. I have my boundaries. They have the boundaries. We dance together, put it this way. But there's not this energy of like you have to force people into anything. So it's really important to know that one of the most important keys is to own your boundary. We're having another webinar coming up on that, like owning my boundaries. How important that is. Like we're going to go through some of the different areas of your life, like where you're not owning your boundaries and why it's so good for you to own them. All the benefit. So these 3 stages allow you to open up your heart. Once you have purged all the BS around your mindset and belief, and also you have purged the information out of your system, out of your body with somatic work, and also purge energetically and destroy and uncreate any cord, any attachments around yourself with anyone. I mean, be that clear canvas of love, and then start becoming to be so aware of your own body, of your somatic, of your emotions and your thoughts and your belief, and become so aware of your triggers, like where is this coming from, like how I'm going to respond instead of reacting. Reaction versus responding. Reacting is unconscious. Sometimes bring a lot of trauma and a lot of dense energy in there, and respond is more come from a more conscious way. You are more conscious of like how you respond. Communication is better. Reaction communication is not good at all. Responding is like communication is more clear, more concise, more congruent, more aligned. And then we talk about boundaries, how important boundaries is to have in our life. So these 3 stages allow you to open up your heart and your energy field to attract a partner who vibrates and resonates with you. So how can I help you? Like, I would love to help you to create the life that you desire. I invite you to go to my website, luciagabriela.com, and go into the free call and experience a 60 minutes Awaken and Discover call. The value is $250. And it's really important for you to know that this is not a sales call. You're already experiencing some aspect of my work through this webinar, which is free. But at the same time, when you go into do the Discover call, what we do is like we really actually go deeper. You're going to be filling out an intake form. The intake form itself is like a good hour of coaching because you have to pour yourself there and share with me as much as you can. So the time that we are together, we actually explore things and once and shift in. Many times we do some shift work. It's so important for you to realize that at the end of the call, if you feel called to do something with me, we co-create it. We do a custom made programs. Yes, we do have a structure of how we work, but it's all about you. How can I help you today to create the life that you desire, to attract that amazing lover into your life? We have our event. I definitely invite you to come and show up to one of the events here, Night of Tantra. That is more about like really exploring Tantra energetically, deeper core, to recognize yourself, explore who you are in your depth. Tantra Kink is all about exploring your sensual and erotic archetypes, and also about the dominant and submissive energy. We explore those energies very well. I love that workshop. A lot of great breakthroughs, great insight. Sensual Bliss, exploring our sensual archetypes. Cuddle Bliss is a workshop about boundaries itself. Like, how can we embody boundaries? We talk about energetic boundaries. We talk about the aspect, so many aspects of the consent. Also about your nose, respecting your nose. Like, we have fun games on that. And yeah, we do get to cuddle and like have a cuddle activity. We also talk about, have the event for the art of relationship mastery for singles, individuals, for couples, individuals who decide to be the masters in their life, in their relationship. We have the art of ecstatic intimacy, which is amazing for couples. Couples have so much fun in there. We actually explore the lover archetypes. So as you can tell on my work or my event, we actually do archetype work, shadow work, purging processes, awareness processes. We go through the whole stages, all the stages, to really create the life that we desire. So again, I would love to help you to explore what's happening in your life, what's blocking you from creating the life that you desire. So please go to luciagabriela.com, sign up for that free 60-minute Awaken and Discover call, and I see you there. I would love to work with you, and I'm really looking forward to help you to create the life that you desire, and that you know that you are so amazing for it. So thank you so much for joining me today. I talk to you soon, and stay tuned for the other webinars coming up, and love you all.